Hi, and good afternoon. My name is Nicole Faison, and I will be your trainer today for updated EIV system training. I want to welcome housing authorities from all over the country, specifically Maryland, D.C., Virginia, New Jersey, Florida, Texas, and for those of you that are viewing this training session via webcast, welcome. And so what I'd like to do is go ahead and get into a brief overview of what this training is going to cover today. So if you have your PowerPoint presentation, those of you in the live studio audience, you have a PowerPoint presentation in your packet. For those of you that downloaded the training materials from our HUD website, you'll follow along on the PowerPoint presentation with the agenda. And today we're going to have a special presentation. I'm really excited about that. So I'm going to share some things with you this morning. And we are going to basically talk about today reducing improper payments through the use of HUD's EIV system. And as you may be aware, today, May 2nd, 2011, we just deployed a new version of EIV, which is EIV version 9.2. And so today I get to share with you what's new in EIV as of today. And then we will have a brief review of HUD EIV guidance and then have a question and answer session. And that will be segment 1. Segment 2 will focus on effective use of EIV system to reduce improper payments related to applicants. And so we'll show you how to do a screening of applicants using the former tenant search as well as the existing tenant search. And then we will have a question and answer session at the conclusion of segment 2. And then segment 3 is where the meat and the potatoes are for this training session, which is focusing on using EIV in the various functions to screen your current tenants. So if you'll notice on this PowerPoint presentation, this particular section of the agenda, we will be going through your multiple subsidy report, as well as the deceased tenants report, the identity verification report, the immigration report, how to use those income reports within EIV, as well as income discrepancy resolution. We will have a case study, so if you have your calculators, get ready for that. And then last but not least, your favorite, the new debts owed to PHAs and termination module. And I'm really excited because we have completely overhauled the debts owed module, and so I'm delighted to share with you those enhancements that have been made to that system. And then we will conclude with a question and answer session at the end of segment number 3. And we will be breaking at 3 p.m., okay? So no matter where we are in this presentation, we will break at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So now, what I'd like to do, and this is unusual for me, but I have a special presentation for you today. And this was a last-minute presentation. Was really excited. Friday night, as I was wrapping things up, I received an email from Seattle Housing Authority, specifically from Rhonda Hugh, who's the supervisor at the Housing Authority, who informed me that Megan Profit actually on this past Friday received an award for basically being the Employee of the Year. And this award was issued by the Affordable Housing Management Association for being the EIV guru in Northwest. So I really would like to just take a moment to say thank you, Megan, for all the work that you do. And I am congratulating Megan for this award. Now, I haven't heard about any other EIV gurus, but I'm sure they're out there, and maybe there's some in our live studio audience, and we'll hear about you. But Megan is one of those Housing Authority staff persons that just keeps on going and making sure that the Housing Authority has policies and procedures that are in place that ensure that limited federal dollars serve as many families as possible. She's making sure that the Housing Authority staff are complying with HUD requirements. This woman, probably short of me, can probably recite every PIH notice with respect to EIV because she is the official EIV guru for the Northwest region on the West Coast. So I am just really tickled pink. And if you notice in this picture, behind Megan is her bumper sticker. And notice what it says, I love EIV. Now, I thought me, being the birth mother of EIV, was the only one that loved EIV, but Megan loves EIV as much as I do. And for those of you that love EIV, I say thank you, thank you, thank you, because this system, while no system is perfect, but this system is designed to help to detect, deter, and prevent fraud, waste, and abuse within HUD rental assistance programs. And so EIV is a great tool to help us do that. And of course, you all know that I love Judge Judy, okay? And I talk about Judge Judy every presentation that I give. And I did attempt to get Judge Judy to come visit with us during this training segment. And as you may see here, here's correspondence from Judge Judy, okay? Unfortunately, Judge Judy could not join us. But what she did say is, Nicole, please keep spreading the word about this EIV system. Many of you know that Judge Judy has worked in the various court systems dealing with the very same families that we assist, which typically are families of low income, families that have challenging situations with, child support and juvenile delinquency. And Judge Judy is one of those individuals that hates to see taxpayers' dollars go to waste. And so I told Judge Judy, we need some of that Judge Judy no-nonsense in our PHA community world. And actually, a lot of you are already exerting that energy of Judge Judy into your day-to-day operations. And so Judge Judy couldn't be here with us, but she did send her kind words. And last but not least, I did attempt to get the President of the United States, President Obama, to visit with us. But unfortunately, he too had prior engagements, so he could not join us. However, President Obama and his cabinet, as well as this administration, has said from day one that everyone has a stake in ensuring that federal dollars are not wasted, are not abused, and that everybody is held accountable for the monies that are expended. And you as Housing Authority staff individuals, you all receive from HUD collectively about $26 billion to provide affordable housing to low-income families. And we need to ensure that that money is expended in a way that is in accordance with HUD requirements. And so back on July 22nd, 2010, President Obama signed what we call here at HUD IPERA, the Improper Payments Elimination and Recovery Act of 2010, which basically is a bill that's designed to cut down on fraud, waste, and abuse in HUD federal assisted programs, as well as any federal assistance programs. And the notion is that we want to ensure that our governments are accountable. We want to ensure that the monies that are expended, again, in accordance with the policies and the requirements. And the bottom line is, if money goes out the door that should not have gone out the door, we want our money back, okay? HUD wants its money back, and you as PHAs, when you push out money and you push it out and you find that a payment went out in error, you have a responsibility to bring that money back into your pocket. And so today's training is going to focus on the various aspects of EIV that will help you to identify these various areas in which you may be putting money out for ineligible families. And so I'm going to help you to reduce improper payments. And I have a team here, and I'm not sure if they're in this room, but if they are, at some point I will introduce them to you. That works with me to work with you all to assist you in reducing improper payments. And so with that said, I want to talk about briefly reducing improper payments through the use of HUD's EIV system. Because basically what we want you to know is that through the use of the EIV system, housing authorities can reduce improper payments, specifically for ineligible assistance on behalf of current families that are assisted, as well as those families that are applying to you for assistance. And HUD is going to be monitoring various EIV reports to identify potential deficiencies that could contribute to improper payments. And so some of you may be aware that back in April, I sent out a message to all of the subscribers of the PIH-RHIIP mailing list around April the 16th, letting housing authorities know that the Real Estate Assessment Center, which is responsible for doing assessments, has a new component within the REAC that specifically focuses on data analysis to identify potential improper payments. And my team is going to identify these deficiencies, and we're going to share them with you, but we're also going to provide you with guidance on how to fix those issues, okay? So we are doing that monitoring, and it doesn't have an official, HUD division or anything like that, but we are known here at HUD as the EIV IPAT team, or Enterprise Income Verification System / Improper Payments Assessment Team. And we will be monitoring, we have been monitoring on a regular basis your PIC reporting, as well as your overdue re-exam reports from PIC system. We're also looking to see whether or not you have access to the EIV system. Are you using the EIV system? We're looking to see how many deceased tenants are reported on your deceased tenants report. We're also looking at your identity verification report to see how many families have invalid Social Security numbers reported on the 50058 form. And then we're also looking at income discrepancies, and particularly we're looking at those families who told you at the annual re-exam or the interim re-exam that they had no wages, no unemployment, or no Social Security benefits, but based on our computer matching with the Health and Human Services and the Social Security Administration, they're telling us that there is income. So we're looking at the most egregious income discrepancies, and we will be pushing out to you a report to have you look at these instances and take whatever necessary corrective action to fix those issues. And so the notion is that if you should happen to receive correspondence from PIH.improperpayments@HUD.gov, that is coming from my team here at the Real Estate Assessment Center, and we're asking you to take a look at the report, implement the corrective action that we've outlined in the notice, and to respond back to us. So some of you all have already started to interact with my team members, and I'm going to call out the names of my team members and so that you're aware of who they are, because if they call you, I want you to afford them the same courtesy that you would afford me if I called you. Now, I know some of you all get really excited when I call you, so I try not to call people because they get really, really excited, and I think I'm like this close now to getting my own reality TV show, Housing Scammers, but when I call a housing authority and the person picks up the phone, they're like, "Is this really Nicole Faison?" I'm like, "Yes, this is Nicole Faison with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development." Next thing I know, I hear, "Ah, she's on the phone." So I feel like a celebrity. Thanks for the love and the support, but it's really not that serious. But I'm just calling to try and help you all out. And when my team members call, they're trying to call you to help you out as well. So you may not know them, but Victoria Austin, Melisande Bell, Stephanie McQueen, Erica Williams, Shay Hardy. Those ladies are part of my improper payments assessment team. So if you should happen to get a phone call from them, please, I ask that you speak with them kindly. I'm not going to say any names, but there's a few housing authority staff persons, they weren't too happy to get a phone call from one of my team members, and I, again, just ask you, please, could you extend the courtesy? And please, if we leave a message, can you call us back, okay? Because like some of our sheets are like running out of room because we've called you like 50 times, okay? So please call us back. We're trying to help you, okay? The other thing I want to point out, if you're with me, we're on slide 11. Not only am I and my team monitoring these reports, HUD's Office of Inspector General are looking at these reports as well. Now, keep in mind, remember, HUD EIV, they do audits, okay? And if HUD EIV should show up at your housing authority and conduct an audit, remember that audit becomes public, okay? So ideally, if my team does its job well, you guys will learn how to effectively correct any deficiencies, and guess what that means? If you do as we ask you to do, you won't ever have to worry about any OIG audit findings. Can you get excited about that? Okay, so please understand that OIG is monitoring these same reports, but if they audit and they come out and find any problems, it's going to be an OIG audit finding, and they're going to publish their report. So I want you all to be reminded that you are required, in accordance with 24 CFR Part 5, Section 233, which is the new HUD regulation that became effective last year, January 30th, 2010, that requires you to utilize the EIV system to reduce subsidy payment errors and administrative errors, and you're required to correct any identified deficiencies, and we provided guidance to you via PIH Notice 2010-19. And so if you'll notice, in your PowerPoint, well actually following your PowerPoint presentation, if you downloaded the materials electronically, at the back or the handouts associated with this training does include all EIV related notices. So for those of you that have the book or you have the training materials, there's either a blue or a green piece of paper that basically segregates those different documents that are good resource materials. So I know Megan is watching this training, so Megan has already downloaded the training materials. In fact, her supervisor emailed me last night, Rhonda Hugh, and said, Nicole, she's already got this stuff sent out to the printer to be printed. So they're going to bind these materials. So if that's something that you want to do, it's a good idea. This is a good desk reference. This training materials supplemented with the PowerPoint presentation, good reference guide. And if you're like me, you do the yellow highlights, you do the little stickies, the little green tabs, and the stuff that's important, you just flag it. So that way, when you're doing an annual or an interim reexamination and you need to know something specific, you just flip to that tab. Okay, so great reference materials for your day-to-day activities. So if you'll go with me to slide 12, I just want to remind you that these are the reports that you're required to monitor on a monthly basis. Your deceased tenants report, your identity verification report, as well as your immigration report. And then the reports that you're required to monitor on a quarterly basis. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret in just a second, but the income discrepancy report, notice that it says HUD only. I'm going to tell you why that says HUD only. But your income discrepancy report, you're going to monitor that on a quarterly basis, as well as your multiple subsidy report and your new hires report. And if you are an agency that has an interim increase policy and modifies your family rent contributions in between your interim and annual re-exams, then you will look at the new hires report. So I just want to take just a brief moment, okay? Can we take like a 10-second timeout, okay? And Ed is going to show the PHA community, because I want everybody out there in the webcast land to see the live studio audience, okay? So Ed, if you could do that for me, because these folks are getting ready to get excited, because I'm getting excited, okay? So Ed, if you'll zoom in on those guys. Okay. Now, I want to back up just 1 second, okay? And Ed, if you don't mind, I want to go back and remember, just a few moments ago, I told you that Megan Prophet had this "I love EIV" bumper sticker in her picture, if you notice on that little slide, right? So I'm so excited. I need "I love EIV" bumper stickers for you guys. So for those of you that love EIV, we're going to afford you the "I love EIV" bumper sticker so that you can be like Megan and put this on your door so that you can let your tenants know. Remember, we want to let our tenants know that we have EIV. We do screening. So notice the happy face, "I love EIV." And then we also, for those of you that are Megan, now Megan is going to get this special bumper sticker, and you too, if you demonstrate efforts like Megan, you'll get the little man holding near and dear to his heart, EIV. Inside the heart is EIV. So Megan Prophet, I want you to know I have a package coming to you, and Megan has inspired me to print this "I love EIV" bumper sticker. This is Nicole doing this. HUD did not print this bumper sticker. Thank you to A1 Printing, who printed this at the last minute, and thank you to the agent, Mr. Bryant and Melvin, who did this at the last minute. So I want to say thank you, and for those of you, you can see me if you want one of these lovely, these are courtesy of Nicole Faison. Okay? So thank you, Megan. Megan, you have inspired us. And somehow I think after today's session, I'm probably going to get a whole lot of stories about EIV. And for those of you that are in our live studio audience, and for those of you watching, if you are keeping up with what's going on here at HUD, just last week, Secretary Donovan announced the "I Believe in HUD" campaign. And basically what we want to do is we want to share why you believe in HUD. And whether you are administering the program, whether there's a recipient of the program. And one of the things that I will be launching, spearheaded off of Secretary Donovan's initiative, is I want to hear from you, the PHA community, families who have a success story that they want to share. Because we all know that in our housing administration of the public housing and the housing choice voucher programs, most have a negative concept of what public housing and housing choice voucher programs are, and some will inadvertently or deliberately classify the families that we assist as those individuals that do not deserve our help. And we all know that that couldn't be the furthest from the truth. And I want to begin one family at a time, one housing authority at a time, to remove the stigma associated with public housing and housing choice voucher programs. The media can be quick to highlight the negativity that may go on at your housing authority, but I want us to inundate the media with the success stories, because I want to block out all of the negativity about the programs, because we assist over 3 million families. And every single one of you in this room and watching this training via webcast, you all have at least one. And many of you have many families that are success stories where they can tell you they were in the public housing program, then maybe they transferred to the housing choice voucher program, they left the program, they become self-sufficient, they've gotten a college education or even completed a high school education, and now they're working and they are grateful for the assistance that we provided. And so those are the stories that I want us to share with the public and with the media. And so I'll be sending out something within the next week or so asking you to share your stories and submitting those to PIH.RHIIP.TA@HUD.gov, because we're going to publish those success stories on the HUD web pages. And so I want you to start to think about families that you may want to write into HUD so you can tell Secretary Donovan why you believe in HUD. Why do the families that you assist believe in HUD? Because we all know that we do this work because we love it. So I want to share that with the whole world. So I thank you for allowing me to do that short presentation. And so now what I want to get into is published PIH notices with respect to HUD EIV guidance. And basically I want to share a few information on 3 PIH notices. The first one being 2011-2, which basically extended the PIH notice 2010-3 with respect to verification of Social Security numbers as well as supplemental security income and Social Security benefits. And so this notice was issued on January 12, 2011. And just a reminder, please keep in mind, Social Security numbers are required of all household members. Okay? That includes live-in aides and foster children. Remember, the only ones that are exempt are your individuals who do not contend to have eligible immigration status, because those individuals typically would not have a Social Security number. However, please, I see a couple new faces in the audience, and I see a couple new faces out there watching this via webcast. Do not fall for the okey doke. And what I mean by that is some of you will have clients that will come to you and say, well, you know, Ms. Faison, I changed my mind. I don't contend eligible immigration status. No. If you claim to be a citizen, a U.S. citizen, or eligible non-citizen last time, you can't come now and say you're going to change your status. Now, let me explain to you, in case some of y'all missed that. Why would somebody want to not give you their Social Security number? Because once they give the Social Security number, you're going to be able to track their income. Exactly. So some will say, I don't want to contend to have eligible immigration status, so they don't have to give you a Social Security number. Because remember, no Social Security number, no computer matching. So everyone has to make a declaration. And for those individuals who made a declaration in the past that they were an eligible U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen, they must disclose a Social Security number. Live-in aides are included. Remember, even though the live-in aide, you're not counting their income or even getting verifications associated with the live-in aide. Remember, in order for you to do screening of the live-in aide, you must have a Social Security number, because how else are you going to run a criminal background check if you don't have a social? So, no social, no help. Foster care children. I understand that some foster care programs, they do not give the foster parent the Social Security number. That's fine and dandy. However, you need to inform your clients, and you also need to inform the local foster care agency. If you want me to take in these children, I must have a Social Security number. You cannot add these foster care children to the HUD Form 50058 family composition unless the Social Security number is accompanied with it, okay? The next notice is 2010-50, which revised PIH notice 2010-9, and this provides you with guidance on how to effectively use the deceased tenants report to avoid housing dead people and paying housing assistance. And for those of you that manage public housing, we need those units to come back online after Aunt Bessie has died, okay? And we need that unit back online in a timely manner. So this notice was issued in response to HUD OIG Audit Report 2010-FW-001 related to improper payments on behalf of dead tenants. And this notice was issued on December 30th, 2010, and specifically it provides guidance to ensure that the data that you submit on your HUD form 50058 is complete and accurate. Also, it helps you to avoid improper payments or housing assistance payments or HAP to Section 8 landlords. And it also, and notice on slide 18, there is a correction. It says recover improper payments to landlords. It should be from landlords. Because if you pay a landlord money for any month following the month in which the death occurred, you must get that HAP back, okay? If you do not get that HAP back or recover that HAP payment, guess who gets to pay for it? You, the PHA. And guess what? You may not use your HAP money to pay for it, okay? Everybody get that? You cannot use your HAP money from HUD to pay HAP for any month of HAP following the month in which the death occurred. So if somebody just died on April 30th, that landlord is not eligible to receive HAP for May 1. It's over. It's done. No HAP. Okay? 24 CFR 982.311 paragraph A specifically says you only pay HAP for a unit that is occupied. They're like, well, it's occupied by the tenant stuff. Remember, this is no longer a unit-based program. It is a tenant-based program. So, unfortunately, you will have to tell your landlords, I'm sorry, we do not pay for units, we pay for people. Now, if you want to pay, you can pay, but not with HAP. You will have to use your administrative fee, or you will have to use some other non-federal funds. If you are a combined housing authority and you've got a COCC or Central Office Cost Center, you can take money from there and pay that HAP, but you may not use HAP. And if you pay that HAP, my team will be following up with you to make sure that you reimburse your net restricted assets account for your HAP money, okay? Also, for public housing, the notice was revised in December to let public housing program administrators know that the family is allotted a 14-day period to remove the belongings from the unit unless your local or state tenant landlord laws allows for a shorter or longer period of time, okay? And you must, please, you must comply with your local tenant landlord laws. Now, I will be the first one to tell you that I am guilty of doing the wrong thing. And I know some of my former colleagues at the Housing Authority of Baltimore City knows that when Aunt Bessie died, and we knew that she was the only person in the unit, but you know how Aunt Bessie has some people that stand in the unit that have no business staying in the unit? In Baltimore, we call those squatters, because you have no business being in the unit, but guess what? In Maryland, squatters have rights. However, in my mind back then, I didn't care about squatters, nor did I care about squatters' rights. So I want you to learn from my past experience as to what not to do. Because if you do what I did when I worked at the Housing Authority, I will see you on an episode of Judge Judy. And that episode goes like this. Your Honor, I was wrongfully evicted from the unit and I lost a 15-carat diamond ring along with $15,000 worth of clothes and all of my lifelong possessions. And of course, Nicole Faison is telling Judge Judy, well, Your Honor, it's a public housing unit. They're not listed on family composition. They had no business being in the unit in the first place. And so, Judge Judy is going to look at me and she was going to say, that's a wrongful eviction. You cannot put her stuff out, Nicole. I would actually have the maintenance people change the locks on the unit. Don't do that. If you do that, you have just done a wrongful eviction and you have subjected your housing authority to risk that was going to cost the agency money, because I assure you that fur coat was in there, and everything else, and they're going to have pictures, and Judge Judy's going to see it. Judge Judy is going to say, I have to rule in favor of the tenant. So do not change locks. You have to go through your local judicial process, which is basically following, some kind of tenant holding over action or squatters, squasher paper with the court system to actually regain possession of the unit. Okay, so it's very simple. Just do the right thing. Follow your tenant-landlord laws. I know it crunched me to my heart, too, to have to, because my supervisor, Gloria Burton, she said, Nicole, now you know you're not supposed to do that. Now you get Garrett on the phone and change those locks back. And, of course, the squatters, they like, they looking at me, and I'm like, yeah, okay, well, you're going to be out anyway as soon as I get because I'm right down here at the courthouse filing these papers now to get you out of here. You won the battle, but I'm going to win the war. Okay, so 2010-19, our next and final EIV guidance notice with respect to administrative guidance for effective use of the HUD's EIV system. We published this notice on May 17, 2010. This notice is going to be extended for another year. However, I do want to let you know that we are presently working on consolidating all of the HUD EIV guidance notices into a handbook. And we are going to basically have all of the EIV guidance in one reference document. Now, I've been advised that it takes probably anywhere between 2 to 3 months to get it through HUD's departmental clearance process. However, do know that we have a book coming out, hopefully sometime late summer 2011, that's going to outline for you all of the EIV guidance. And I want to make sure that everybody's aware that you're required to use EIV. You're also required to document that you have used the EIV system. And so there will be certain documentation that HUD staff as well as HUD OIG and any other auditors or independent auditors will be looking for to ensure that you're complying with the HUD required administrative guidance with respect to mandated use of the EIV system. And notice here that on this slide 23, HUD headquarters is going to be monitoring, as I mentioned earlier, your access and your usage of the EIV system. And there's not a whole lot of housing authorities that are not accessing or using the system. However, there are a few scragglers out there that haven't quite got on the bandwagon, so I'm going to be encouraging you to get access to the EIV system. If you have access to the EIV system, make sure you're using the system, because if you do not, your housing authority could be subject to sanctions and or disallowed a cost. And the easiest way to avoid any type of monetary penalty or adverse action by HUD is to simply comply with the HUD requirements outlined in the PIH notices. And if HUD RHIIP should happen to request documentation from you, we will give you a deadline to submit that documentation. Make sure you respond to the request for information and provide the necessary documentation or information that was requested. So now, without further ado, what's new in EIV 9.2? And this system was released this weekend and was successfully deployed today for you to use. Now, I do know that as of this morning, I had requested for the EIV data warehouse to be refreshed. So if you're seeing a null or basic tenant information or income information missing, it's because the data warehouse just needs to be refreshed. I've asked that that warehouse with all the data be refreshed. I know as of last night when I checked in to check on the system and its deployment, everything was there. So the network or the server may have just had a little hiccup, and The data warehouse just needs to be refreshed. So for those of you that are watching this via webcast, and if you've sent in an email message to EIV_help@HUD.gov regarding this issue, know that I am aware of it, and my EIV information technology team has put in a request for the data warehouse to be refreshed. I know that as of the time that I began to do this training session, at 10 minutes after 1, the warehouse had not been refreshed as of that point, but do know that we are aware and we are working on that issue. So now let me talk about the new features that are in this system. We now have the ability to see the last record that you've accessed from a multiple listing of records. And I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like in just a second. But basically, any record that you've accessed from a master listing of families, that record will be highlighted so that you can see where you left off. Also, we've modified the multiple subsidy report. We've also modified the report selection criteria for all of the EIV reports, which I will show you in a minute. I've heard your cries, particularly with respect to printing the EIV income report and you having to redact the report so that you don't give member number 3's information to member number 1. And so we now have a new feature in the system that will allow for you to print household member specific information only. So I'm going to show that to you in just a second. We have modified the tenant certification page, and I'll show you what that looks like. And as I mentioned earlier, I get so excited. Lisa, do you have my medication? Because I got to just tone it down a notch. I was actually playing with the new modified debts owed to PHAs and termination module this morning, and I just love it, and I know you're going to love it too. So let's take a look at the screenshot. Notice here, this is a listing of your households that you selected under by reexamination month, or basically pulling your income reports by batch. Notice how you have a listing there. Whatever records you click on, it will be highlighted in yellow. That way you know where you are on the list. Okay? So you no longer have to figure out, okay, wait a minute, which family record did I just access? You'll know because it'll be highlighted. Okay, next, the multiple subsidy report. This report has been streamlined so that the system will only have to run a query once. Prior to May 2nd, you had to ask the system to tell you which families might be receiving duplicate assistance in the multifamily housing program, and then run it again for the public and Indian housing program. Well, now you don't have to do that. We've taken that criteria out, so the system will search across and within both the PIH and the multifamily housing programs and display the results of the potential duplicates. And if you'll notice here, when you run this report, at the top of the screen will be the actual report criteria and the results. See how simple that is? And then at the bottom, here's your results for the summary reports, and the system automatically defaults to the summary reports tab. And then you would simply select the detail report tab to see the details. And when you click on the details, there is where your household member is showing up in the multifamily housing and or the PIH program. So that's pretty straightforward. Next, we've modified the report selection criteria so that you may access data for these specific 50058 action types. Notice it's action type 1, 2, 3, 4, and 14. We've made this available for the deceased tenants report, the income discrepancy report, as well as the identity verification report, the immigration report, and the new hires report. This feature will be extended to the income report in September 2011. And I want to show you what this looks like. Now, if you'll notice here, this is the verification report for the immigration report. Notice now that you're used to seeing the program type, the reexamination month, but now you have the action type. So maybe you just want to check and see, hey, did all of my individuals who have a new admission, do they have complete and accurate Social Security numbers reported? You basically can say, just show me the data for new admissions, or show me the data for just portability move-ins, or just show me the historical adjustments. This will help you this is just an additional filter to help you get to the nooks and cranny of what you're looking for, because before May 2nd, you got everything. You didn't know if it was a new admission, an annual, an interim, a historical adjustment. So now you have the ability to filter it a little bit more to make life easier for you. The next one is the print household member information. I just love this. You'll notice on your income reports for each family member that's listed, to the right of each household member, there will be a link that says print household member information. When you click on that link, a new window will open up with just that particular household member's income information, and so you will just print that report. The other thing I want to point out to you, a lot of you are concerned about the pagination with the EIV reports, which is something that we have been trying to address for quite some time now. But if you notice on an EIV report, there's 5 household members and only 1 has income information, don't worry about printing that whole income report, which is probably going to span across 7 pages. Just print the portion of the report that has actual income information. Also, do understand that electronic retention of these reports are permissible. Okay? All righty. Now, on to the Tenant PHA certification page. If you'll notice here, we have added additional text at the top of this report to let you know that the certification page is optional. Now, when we made this certification page available to you in April of 2009, in all of the materials, we told you that this page was optional, but since many forgot that it was optional, I put it in black and white. And you'll notice here that it says PHAs are not required to use this certification page. It is a courtesy document for PHAs and tenants to confirm their review of the EIV information and for tenants to document their agreement or disagreement with EIV reported income information. Now, I want to say this to the clients out there, tenants, public housing, housing choice voucher, PIH Section 8 program participants. If your housing authority says you are required to sign it, guess what, clients? You're required to sign it, because the PHA is allowed to have a policy which requires you to sign certain documentation. So please, do not call HUD. My housing authority wants me to sign this certification page. It says up here that it's optional. It's optional for the PHAs to use. HUD does not require you to use it. But if you've been following my trainings for the last several years, you know that I strongly encourage you to use the certification page, particularly when you have tenants or clients who may not have been forthcoming with their income information in the past, so that they can document whether or not they agree or disagree with the EIV reported information. Because we all have that one client that when you're doing the income discrepancy resolution process and you're going through the EIV report and you're telling Mary that there is income information showing up under her Social Security number, oopsies, you know that Social Security income for Junior? Oh, you know, Ms. Faison, I forgot to tell you about that SSI payment. You know, that SSI payment is for Junior to buy his Nintendo and his iPad and download his iPad songs and whatnot. I didn't know I had to report that. And of course, she's going to sign at that point in time, I agree with the EIV reported information. However, when Mary walks out the door, she thinks about it. you know, I think I should consult with legal counsel about my rights, and they're free to do that. If you in D.C., Maryland, Virginia, I don't care what housing authority you at, get acclimated with your local legal aid office and educate them on the income discrepancy resolution process. It goes a long way, okay? Because you want them to understand what that process entails so that you can adequately administer repayment agreements or termination of assistance without having all these barriers put in your way to deal with the back and forth with legal aid. Because the bottom line is either you reported the income correctly or you didn't. And if you didn't report it correctly, then we have to fix it and we have to change the family's contribution. And either you're going to pay to stay or you're going to say goodbye. Those are the choices, one or the other. So this page is a valuable page to assist in that endeavor. Now, let's get to the debts owed to PHAs. And Lisa left the room to go get my medicine. Make sure I don't fall out here from excitement. You now have the ability to search for former tenants by any household member, not just by the head of household. Also, you now can search for former tenants who had an alternate ID generated in PIC. That H number, you now can find, and I know I shouldn't call them this, but the truth of the matter is that you do have some deadbeat tenants. And that's why they're former tenants, because they don't belong in the program, because they're wasting taxpayers' dollars. And so those people we need to ensure do not get back into the program, and that's why the debts owed module is so important. But also, you'll now also be able to search for these tenants that have no business receiving future federal dollars by Social Security number, last name, and/or date of birth. Isn't that fabulous? Also, you now will be able to enter, update information for your former tenants the old way, which is from the listing, or what we call batch, the listing of all those EOP records from PIC. But now you can also do it by Social Security number only. And the batch, the by batch module has a new look and feel, which I'm going to show you. And you will be able to identify your current tenants who might have been previously assisted. Because some of you all are admitting new people into the program, but you don't realize that they're deadbeat tenants that you should not be admitting into the program. So now we got a little flag in EIV that if your person who was admitted into the program, or let's just say 5 years down the road, fellow PHA puts the adverse information from when they were in the public housing or housing choice voucher program, a big warning will jump up on the screen at you, and it will let you know that this person has an adverse record for you to look at so that you can make an informed decision as to whether or not you're going to continue assistance for that particular family, and I'll show you what that looks like. Also, we have new report selection criteria as well as a judgment indicator. The PHA community said, hey, I want to be able to report out on families in which I invested time and actually got a judgment for the outstanding debt that they owed so that you can report that. You also now have the ability to delete multiple EOP records as well as sort the master listing of EOP records. So now I'm showing you a screenshot of the new search for former tenant feature in EIV. Notice here, does not discriminate any longer. Before you could only enter in just the head of household Social Security number. Now you can enter in any household member Social Security number. You also have the ability to select the last name, enter the last name by exact match or begins with. If you use the begins with feature, which is clicking on that little blue toggle, if you do begins with, you must select at least 3 characters of the first 3 characters of the last name, and then click on Get Information. Now, I just want to remind folks that use the EIV system, anytime you see a red error message, the system is trying to tell you something, okay? And particularly, some of you all try to do things that the system won't allow you to do. And if you would just take a moment to read the brief description as to what the system is telling you, that way you can avoid emailing me, because a lot of you will email me and the system has already told you what you can or cannot do. So like here's one of those examples. Please enter a valid 9-digit social security number. There's no need to call HUD and ask them, well, wait, what? The system won't give me what I'm asking for. It's telling you, enter a valid social security number. You cannot search by an H number. You have to put in 9 digits. That's message type number 1. The other type of message that you may get, I tried to search for a record by May 21st, 1971. Do you know how many people were born on May 21st, 1971? A whole lot. You guys want to know a secret? May 21, 1971, that's my birth date. I will not be here at HUD, so don't write in because I will not respond. May 21 is actually a Saturday. May 20th, I will not be here. So, as you all know, typically the last week in May is when I go on my vacation to Aruba. However, I've made an exception this year. I'm not going to Aruba. I'm going to the Maryland NARO conference in Ocean City, Maryland on that, I think it's Friday the 25th or the 27th, but prior to that, I will not be answering any HUD emails. So well, I might, because, you know, I'm addicted to EIV, so, you know, I love EIV, so, you know, even if I'm off, I'll be answering EIV questions. But don't get mad if you don't get a response in 24 hours because I'm on vacation, okay? Error number 2 tells you search by only date of birth is not permitted. You have to enter a last name and a date of birth. See how simple that is? Just follow the system. It guides you towards where you need to be. Now, this is the new screen. This is the segment of the left navigation panel of EIV. And for those of you that have the program administrator role, you will see enter/update information, and you will click on by SSN or by batch. Notice that if you want to do it, enter adverse information by SSN, you simply type in the head of household social security number and click get information. See how simple that is? So a lot of you asked for that, so now we've given it to you. Also, this got a little distorted, but enter update information by batch and new report selection criteria. You now have the ability to choose public housing or Section 8 or all. She's smiling. She's like, thank you goodness, because I don't want to look through all those public housing tenants. I only deal with Section 8. I heard you, honey. So guess what? You can choose Section 8 only and just search for your Section 8. Also notice that you can also now choose the end of participation month. So this is going to allow you to really do effective management of workload. Because you may say, you know what, Mary, you're going to do all the adverse information for families who left the program January through March. Sally is going to do April through June. However you want to do it, we now have this ability for you to specify the end of participation month, and of course your PHA code is pre-populated in the drop-down box, and you will simply click on the Get Report link, and you'll notice that when you see the new columns for the EOP listing, we have a deletion checkbox, we have an end of participation date column, a program type column, unit address, and enter edit information column. These are the columns that we have removed. The debts owed to PHA, the bankruptcy indicator, reason for termination, edit, and delete columns are now gone. Now, if you'll notice here, this is the enter update information for head of households. You will always see your families who have an alternate ID listed first. So if there's nothing adverse to report for these families, you can simply delete those. Now, unfortunately, we were not able to change the way the data lays out on these pages. Any sorting that you do is for the 50 records displayed on that page at this point in time. However, because we have these other alternatives for you to enter adverse information, it should make life a little bit easier for you. The next screenshot shows you multiple record deletions. Now, I'm going to give you a heads up. You can select all and delete all 50 records with the click of a button. But notice, the records are highlighted. Any record that you select for deletion is highlighted in gold. And also, notice that below the delete, select all, and deselect all buttons, it tells you all 50 families selected to be deleted. So the system is letting you know that you've selected the records for deletion. However, let's say you don't want to delete all 50, and maybe you go through the list of 50 and you select one here, one there. The system is going to actually tell you how many families you selected for deletion, and it's going to display the last name. So notice inside this little blue box, it's telling you the last names of the individuals that you've selected for deletion. Now remember, when you delete these EOP records, they're gone forever. So do not get clicker happy. Clicker happy, we've all done it. I'm guilty of it. You click too fast because you know that the system is automatically going to ask you, do you wish to delete this record? And you're automatically clicking yes, 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 yes. So I want you to know that I'm going to help you. For those of you that have that condition, because I've been diagnosed with the clicker happy syndrome by my doctor, and I'm going to help me and I'm going to help you. If you click that you want to delete the record, it's not going to go away with the first click. What happens is you click to delete, and it asks you, do you want to delete? And you're going to say yes. Well, when you say yes, another window is going to pop up. Guess what's in that second window? A picture of me. No, just kidding. Are you sure you want to delete this record? And when you click that yes the second time, the record is gone for good. Now, I want to spare you because some of you all are some PIC experts, and I know because I'm a PIC expert too, but I'm going to tell you right now, you cannot out-slick PIC, okay? So some of you already got in your mind, said, well, no problem. I delete the EOP record out of EIV. I'm going to go into PIC, and I'm going to avoid the EOP and submit another EOP record because you know that EIV copies PIC nightly. It's not going to work, so don't do it. You're going to create a big mess for yourself. I'm just telling you right now, don't do it, okay? I have programmed the system, so it's not going to allow you to do that. I mean, you can go on an EOP and void that EOP record and PIC. Is not going to, that new EOP that you submit for the family will not be populated into EIV. So save your time and energy. Don't do it, okay? Because, you know, there's some things we tweak around with PIC that does work to get our, you know, get our agenda taken care of. But that's not going to work for this one, okay? So don't do it. So we all got it. Do not accidentally delete your EOP records, because once you delete them, they're gone forever. Okay, these column sorting. Notice that any column that has a up and down arrow allows for you to sort the 50 records on the page by any one of those columns. So you can sort by the head of household social security number, the head of household name, the EOP date, the program type, the unit address, or even the enter edit information column. Next, notice that on this screenshot we're showing you there's a new checkbox for judgment. Many of you are looking at that judgment checkbox and you're like, well, it's grayed out. How do I check it? You can't check it unless the family owes a debt. Okay? This is to prevent you from clicker happy, because a lot of us, we see check boxes and we just want to check all the check boxes regardless what the checkbox is there for. So I've programmed the system so you cannot check the box just to be checking it, okay? See how simple that is? Okay, this is my favorite one. Warning of reported adverse information of a current tenant. Now, as of right now, this is only available if you pull income reports by batch or basically by reexamination month, and it will alert you that there is adverse information reported for that family on the details report that are under the by reexamination batch, and it looks like this. Notice it's in red. Warning! There is a debt owed / termination record for this individual. Use the former tenant search feature to view this information. Anytime you see red, remember, EIV is trying to tell you something, okay? So, that is segment 1. For my live studio audience, do we have any questions regarding the content of the materials that I have presented thus far? If you do have a question, Ed would ask that you speak in the microphone in the center of the aisle. If there are no questions, we will proceed to segment 2, which focuses on screening of applicants using the former tenant search. For those of you that are watching via webcast, if you have questions regarding the content of today's training that is aired on May 2nd, 2011, or any other EIV training sessions produced by me and Ed Santiago, you will direct those inquiries to PIH.RHIIP.TA@HUD.gov. If you send them to any other email address, you will not receive a response. So direct your inquiries regarding the content of this training material or any PIH-EIV training materials to PIH.RHIIP.TA@HUD.gov, which is at the back of this PowerPoint presentation. So, looks like we have no questions from our live studio audience, so we will proceed to segment 2, which focuses on effective use of HUD's EIV system, particularly the former tenant search to do screening of applicants. So now I want to let you know what you are required to do to reduce improper payments associated with potential recipients of HUD rental assistance programs. You will be required to conduct a former tenant search for all adult applicant household members. And the purpose of you doing this search is to determine suitability for initial rental assistance. We also want to ensure that you're avoiding providing limited federal housing assistance to families who previously did not comply with HUD program requirements and/or owes money to a housing authority as of their end of participation date. You're also required to deny assistance in accordance with your PHA established policy. Notice here on the screen, the second bullet, at this time, HUD regulations do not require PHAs to deny assistance to a family with reported adverse information in EIV. However, if you were listening to me during segment 1, I emphasize President Obama and his administration's aggressive approach to ensuring that limited federal dollars serve as many families as possible. So it behooves you to ensure that you implement policies and procedures that will eliminate or reduce the likelihood of potential recipients of federal assistance from receiving that assistance if it's not warranted. So notice that the former tenant search really is in the spirit of the presidential memorandum of June 18, 2010, entitled Enhancing Payment Accuracy Through a Do Not Pay List. If you think about it, our debts owed to PHAs is a do not pay list. And housing authorities, as well as federal and state local agencies, have been directed under this presidential memorandum to access available information so that you can make an informed decision and to avoid preventing paying out money for individuals who are not worthy to receive it. The bottom line is we're trying to make sure that the dollars that would go out the door don't go out the door before an improper payment occurs. Basically, that's what it boils down to. We want to make sure you're not pushing money out the door to someone who should not be getting it. So, with that said, HUD strongly encourages housing authorities to implement policies, procedures, standard operating procedures, which will hold families accountable. And you may realize that sometimes within a family, there's a bad apple. Well, the one bad apple should not spoil it for the rest of the family. So we want to make sure that we are identifying culpable family members. And what I mean by that is, you know, if it's a household of 5 and member number 3 was the reason why there's this adverse information, well, we should say yes to everybody else on the family, but no to that other person, okay? So that's what we say, you know, holding people accountable and only focusing on those individuals, keeping out those individuals or family members or household members that were not culpable. And then also, we want to make sure your policies are preventing improper payments on behalf of potential beneficiaries of HUD rental assistance programs. And so we want to make sure that at the end of the day, that we're getting the big bang for the buck. All the money that's going out the door is eligible payments. Okay. Now, to prove that you have done the former tenant search, you're required to document the results of the former tenant search in one or two ways. For those household members, you do a search and there is a positive result, you're required to maintain a copy of the debts owed to PHAs and EOP report in the applicant file. For household members where there is a negative search result, or basically no results, you can opt to do one or two things. We're not asking you to keep or print out or maintain electronically that debts owed report, but what you should do is document the tenant file folder or applicant file folder that you conducted the search. So an example is no former tenant search results for all household members as of May 2nd, 2011. That sends a message to HUD that you did the search and there were no results. If you want to retain a copy of the search results that are negative, you can do that. And actually, it's a very short page, so it's entirely up to you. So how to conduct a former tenant search, I want to show you how to do this, and I want to remind folks that if you're an EIV system user, if you have the PHA occupancy application processor role, the PHA occupancy voucher or public housing role, you will be able to do the former tenant search. So for those of you that have an office that specifically deals with screening of applicants, remember, they don't have to see income information within the EIV system. You can assign them the specific application processor role, which basically is a very streamlined role within EIV that allows them to do certain things. And as we go through this training today, you will see the various features that are available to the application processor role. So to do this search, you would simply click on the Search for Former Tenant link, which is located on the left navigation panel under the Debts Owed to PHAs and Termination header. And if you'll notice here on the screen, here's your left navigation panel. And the arrow is telling you this is where you click to do your search for former tenants. Very straightforward. Most people do not have to read the manual. Most people do not look at these training materials, but I encourage you to look at the training materials, because if you don't want to go through pages and pages of a user manual, these training materials are a streamlined process to show you exactly how to do what you need to do. So when you click on this link, you'll notice again, here is the screen that will prompt you to enter in the Social Security number. Now I tell folks, work smarter, not harder. The easiest thing you can do is just type in the 9-digit Social Security number. Some of you all will type in this 9-digit Social Security number, type in the last name, Washington-Thompson, and put in the date of birth. All that's not necessary. cut down on the administrative burden. Work smarter, not harder. KISS, keep it stupid simple, as Judge Judy would say. KISS. 9 digits, click on get information, and your results will display. Okay? And notice here, this is an example of an EOP record that has not been deleted, nor has there been any information entered by the Housing Authority. This is not what we call positive results. This is neutral. All this is telling you is that there is an EOP record. The Housing Authority has not deleted it, nor have they entered information. Okay? So notice everything is 0 as far as debts owed. Everything is no. There's no information. This is just simply the EOP record. Now on this next slide, you'll see this is what you want to see when you do the search, which is your negative results. No data found for SSN, and notice that the last 4 digits is displayed there. And this is why I said you can maintain a copy of this in the file folder. You're not required to do so. But if you want to, you can. With this result here, we would just simply ask you to document the applicant file. You know, no data found for, no former tenant search results as of May 2nd, 2011. And Kim. Y'all remember what Kim is? Keep it moving. Virginia's like, yeah, I remember that one. There is no new acronym for this training session, so we'll just be revisiting some of the previously issued acronyms. Okay. Now, here is what you do have to keep in your tenant or applicant file. If, by chance, your applicant has a positive results, notice that this is the top portion of the report. And here we have an instance where the former tenant here was at the Cleveland Housing Authority, and they left the program on July 9th, 2008, and they owe $520.31, and they failed to pay rent. This is a public housing tenant. Okay? So you have this record, and this is the bottom portion. Notice that the bottom portion is just lists the household members. It tells, this is a notice to Amber, that this debt owes record is what's in the system. She has to dispute this information with the Cleveland Housing Authority, not with the DC Housing Authority where she's applying for assistance today. Just out of curiosity, DC, since DC's in the house, DC Housing Authority. If Amber is before you today and you see that she owes $520.31 to Cleveland, are you going to let her into your program? I love y'all. See, they got great policies on the books. They're like, look, Amber, we would love to assist you. However, at this time, it appears that you owe $521.31 to the Cleveland Housing Authority. You may want to follow up with the Cleveland Housing Authority and pay that amount off, and when you pay it and have a receipt, come back and see us. I don't know about you, but I'm not even going through all that whole application process. There's no point in filling out all that paperwork. Come back when you have a receipt, a legitimate receipt. Because Amber, she done gone around the corner and got a little receipt book from Walmart. I paid it. That was quick. Now I'm going to let you know, because some of y'all are a little overly aggressive, and you may want to take some of the Dale Carnegie classes that I've taken so that you can tone it down a notch, because some of y'all have a little attitude. Girl, Amber, you can't, we can't admit you into this program. You owe this $520, and you got the head roll and everything going. Don't do that, because your supervisor will write you up on your performance evaluation. I still have my housing authority evaluations, and I have come a long way because one of my supervisors put down that I was insensitive to the needs of the clients. Some of y'all need to work on that. So do not tell Amber, look here, girl, TBSSSS. Y'all know what that means, right? Too bad, so sad, so sorry. You just think it. You just think it. You do not say that to your clients. You just think it. You know, every day is a different day in the wonderful world of the PHA communities, and some days are longer than others, and so you just got to entertain yourself so that you don't go crazy. So you just think to yourself, this girl's not getting up in here. It's 5:20, 30. You just internalize it. Internalize it. All righty, so let's Kim and keep it moving. So what should you do? See, we keep it simple at HUD. What to do if there's positive search results. First and foremost, Amber, here's a copy of your debts owed to PHA and termination report from the Cleveland Housing Authority. You'll want to follow up with the Housing Authority if you have any disputes with that, okay? Because that really falls into the category, there's nothing you can do about that information that's being reported by Cleveland, okay? So as we used to say in Baltimore, my name is Bennett and I'm not in it, so I don't have nothing to do with that. That's between you and Cleveland, but you don't say it like that. Amber, I would suggest that you follow up with the Cleveland Housing Authority and resolve that issue and come back to us. And of course, DC already has a policy, standard operating procedures. They're going to deny admission in accordance with their established PHA policy, and you have every right to do that, okay? Now, here's another caveat that you can say to Amber. Amber, we can't continue processing your application for assistance at this time. However, once you repay the Cleveland Housing Authority and provide us with a receipt, then we can begin processing your application. So you can give your applicant an option, which is to repay the money to the Housing Authority, or you can say, well, if you enter into a repayment agreement and demonstrate that you've made the first 3 payments on time and in accordance with the PHA established agreement, then we can consider processing your application. Now, keep in mind, you don't get involved in repayment agreements or anything of that nature. That's with the reporting Housing Authority. But these are just letting you know that there are options, because some of us don't like to use the word no. So you will never, ever have to tell Mary, no, you can't assist her. Mary, we can assist you when we receive confirmation that this debt has been paid in full. See? We don't have to be negative. We can put a positive twist on it. That's the light at the end of the tunnel for Mary. Okay, so for adverse terminations, let's say she doesn't owe the Housing Authority any money, but the Housing Authority terminated her assistance for failure to do the re-exam, or she abandoned the unit. You're going to deny admission in accordance with your PHA policy. And again, I want to emphasize HUD regulations grant housing authorities the discretionary authority with respect to denial of assistance. So that is entirely your call. If it's your policy to not admit families who owe a debt or not admit families who have been previously assisted and have demonstrated their inability to comply with program requirements, then we want you to follow your policy. One of the things I want you to be careful, though, please do not write your policy so strict, because sometimes you will have to find yourselves looking at each situation on a case-by-case basis. And if you write your policy real strict where you say, we will not admit, the one case that you do admit, I assure you, someone's going to find out about that case and they're going to try to sue you. Because they're going to, and even though it's not going to involve any type of, housing discrimination, that's what it will become. It will become a housing discrimination. They'll figure out some kind of way that they discriminated against me because my hair is purple and I had an earring in my nose. You don't want that. So write your policy so that, each case is looked at on a case-by-case basis and the decision is made. Okay, screening of applicants, your existing tenant search. This is also a feature available to determine eligibility for initial rental assistance. And here what we're trying to do is we're trying to avoid families or household members receiving duplicate assistance. Okay, so the bottom line is if the family is already assisted somewhere else or in another HUD rental assistance program, you only get assistance once, okay? Now, I do realize that particularly here in the DC metropolitan area, this can be a great place to come north for families that are down in the south, but you cannot have a winter home and a summer home. At least not in HUD assisted programs, you cannot. That luxury is not afforded to participants of the public housing and the housing choice voucher program, nor any HUD rental assistance program, project-based Section 8 on the multifamily housing, 202, 811s, 236s. You cannot have two, okay? So this existing tenant search feature is going to help you, again, during the applicant screening process, and correct me if I'm wrong, but typically the applicant screening process, that's probably the best process because there is where you get all the love and the appreciation and the support and the compliance. Yes, Ms. Faison, these are all the documentation that you need. Yes, Ms. Faison, I'll sign that. No attitudes, no nothing. It's a great experience. But then, once they become, some of them, not all of them, but some, you all know, you all had that problem. She's shaking her head. She already knows. She's thinking of LaWanda down there at 123 Main Street. But this is what you're required to do. For every applicant, you're required to conduct an existing tenant search for all household members. You're going to provide the family with a copy of the existing tenant search results. If it pops up that they're in two places, you're going to give them a copy. Some of your clients may be suffering from selective amnesia. Ms. Faison, I didn't know I had a voucher over there at the DC Housing Authority. But they're right over here at Alexandria trying to get in public housing. I know y'all thinking, why would they be trying to go into public housing if they got a voucher? You know why. You know why. And sublease that public housing, you're going to get a couple dollars in the pocket. Extra dollars. Okay. So what you then are going to do is require the family to provide you with documentation of move out from the assisted unit. For example, a vacate notice. If it's necessary, contact that housing authority or landlord to confirm their current tenancy status or obtain documentation of that current tenancy status. For example, and I had a case like this just 2 weeks ago in North Carolina. Lady was in a multifamily housing unit trying to get admitted into the public housing program. It showed up that she was already in a project-based Section 8 unit under the multifamily housing program. So the housing authority said, hey, we need proof that you are no longer in that multifamily housing program. And she didn't have any proof, so she contacted the landlord of the multifamily housing property. They gave her a copy of the HUD Form 50059, which showed that she had actually moved out of the property. So if you'll notice here, we're looking for documentation of current tenancy status, for example, a HUD Form 50058 or 50059, which is for the multifamily housing. And it's real simple. If there's a positive result, you're required to deny assistance or approve assistance contingent upon move out of currently occupied assisted unit. And what is meant by that, maybe you have a family that's in a program already, but let's say they're moving to another area. They're in public housing in Cleveland, and now they're coming to DC. Well, that's fine. They're going to EOP out of Cleveland, but they're going to be a new admission under the DC Housing Authority. But at no time can there be duplicate assistance. So they've got to work with their prior housing authority and your housing authority to ensure that the 5/8 do not overlap, okay? Anytime there's an overlap, then that family is going to show up in that existing tenant search. So you want to make sure that there's coordination. Now, I know realistically the average person, they can't move out today and then be at the other place tomorrow, but you all going to have to work that out administratively so that there is no issue with your 5/8 that are in the PIC system. Can I ask the PHA community, please be kind to one another. Do unto others as you would want done unto you. And I keep saying that because I keep hearing these horror stories where the one housing authority is making the life of the other housing authority miserable. And all I'm saying is, you know what you're required to do. Do your piece so that the other housing authority can do their piece and that there's no issues. And don't procrastinate. Don't wait 5 months to do your EOP transaction or make whatever adjustments you need to do. So please extend your PHA family that courtesy. Okay? And then how to conduct your existing tenant search, very simplistic. Again, notice that your application processor as well as your voucher and public housing roles allow for you to do the existing tenant search feature. You will simply click on the existing tenant search link as identified in the blue box and the arrow. And notice here your participant code, you will simply select your PHA code and you will go with the system default, which is all household members. Do know that you have the ability to query the system for just children or adult household members or all household members, but for this purpose you're going to use the default, which is all household members. Click on the search button and then the system will display your negative or positive results. This is what we want to see for your applicants, which is your negative tenant search results. Notice here, again, no match found in PIH, no match found in multifamily housing. The last 4 digits of the Social Security number are displayed. And again, the negative search results, you're not required to maintain these in the file, but if it makes life easier for you, do it. We just need to see documentation in the applicant file that you've done the screening. Okay. Now, if by chance you should happen to have a positive results, notice the system is telling you this family was newly admitted on January 1st, 2010 by the New York City Housing Authority, or NYCHA. And then there's NYCHA's telephone number, fax number if you need to reach out to them. There was no match found in the multifamily housing programs. So you need to ask Mrs. Azark, hey, it appears that you're receiving assistance at the New York City Housing Authority, that you were admitted last year. Is that correct? Yes or no? If it is correct, we need proof that you no longer reside there, or we need proof that you are going to end your tenancy there. See how simple that is? So that's the screening of applicants. Any questions for screening of applicants? Is that pretty much straightforward? Great. Okay, so we're going to move on to segment 3, which is going to be the longest segment of this training. However, we will be breaking in 10 minutes so that we can stretch our legs and do the things that we need to do during break. But now I want to talk about screening of your existing tenants, how to use EIV to reduce improper payments, particularly duplicate assistance. And this is similar to what we just discussed. Your multiple subsidy report, you're required to monitor that multiple subsidy report on a quarterly basis for all household members, just to make sure that your current tenants are not double dipping in the public housing, housing choice voucher, multifamily housing programs. Oftentimes you have families where the children grow up and they move out, okay? However, you do need to make sure that you're updating your family composition to remove those household members who leave the household. Now, do keep in mind, there is no specific HUD regulation that tells you exactly how to do this process. Now, in Baltimore, we did not take a adult household member off family composition unless they proved to us that they really were gone. I need a copy of a lease where you moved to, or I need a copy of a utility bill, gas and electric. I guess they don't do telephones. Everybody got a cell phone now. But I need something that shows me that you are on your own. Now, I do realize that some folks, you know, Bob is going to go live with his girlfriend, Becky, over in the unit, and he's not on the lease and all that. Y'all got to figure out what documentation tickles your fancy that gives you the warm and fuzzy that Bob is not coming back to Mary Ann's unit, okay? Because you all know, well, you know, Bob came back because he and Becky broke up. Well, you're going to have to add them back to family composition, but that's all in accordance with your PHA established policy. So you want to make sure that you have standard operating procedures in place to address what is necessary to document the removal of individuals from the household. Because for you new people, okay, listen up close, because there's a little game out there. Because see, really, in some instances, Mary Ann wants to remove her son Bob, who is now 20, from the family composition. Why, folks? Bob got a job, and now Bob's money counts in the tenant rent contribution. Oh, well, you know, Bob, he moved on with his girlfriend Becky. He don't live here no more. Now, Section 8, you know, unless you guys got cars and you peeping out your Section 8 tenants, you don't know what's going on. But for public housing, if you right on site, you know good and well. I see Bob's car every day outside of the unit. He still lived there. So I'm just saying, you got to have your policies in place to address the okie doke, because some of them, you know, they just trying to take them off the family composition because they want to bring down that rent contribution, okay? Also, you require the family to immediately terminate assistance in the other rental assistance program if they should happen to show up on your multiple subsidy report. Remember, they can only have one. Now, some of y'all may already have a policy in place. Look, I don't know what you're going to do about that assistance over there, but as soon as we know that you have assistance elsewhere, we just go on and terminate. If that's your policy, not a problem. But again, make sure it's consistent, because I see some head nods. They're like, shoot, we're not going to require them to terminate assistance from the other program. We just say, so long, see ya. That's fine. Just make sure you got a policy. Unless some of y'all like me, because in Baltimore, I'm kind of like, I like to play the cat and mouse game, where you know they're double dipping and you know they're subleasing your public housing unit, so you send out a little letter to the unit telling them to come in for the annual re-exam, and then they come in for the annual re-exam, and you know good and well it's not the annual re-exam time, but they come in anyway, and so then you say to them at that time, oh, I noticed that you have a Section 8 voucher that you just leased up, you know, on April 1st. So I'm just going to let you know that you're going to be receiving a 30-day notice to terminate your public housing lease. Well, Ms. Faison, I don't know nothing about that voucher over there. Okay. You have the right to file a grievance in accordance with 966. I think it's, I can't remember, 255 or something. Anyway, you know the grievance procedure process. So the notion is, let the folks know that you know, and you got to figure out what your policy is going to be. But the bottom line is, how many assistants can they receive? One. That's it. And then, of course, you want to maintain in your family file the documentation that you have resolved the duplicate subsidy issue. Okay? Now, remember, everything is based on data analysis of family composition on the 50058 and the 50059. So If you update the 5.8 or the 5.9, they will automatically fall off the report. But for whatever reason, maybe something didn't fall off the report. If the Inspector General's office came to you today and said, hey, I noticed that Bob is showing up in 2 places, you want to be able to show OIG that you have the documentation to support that, A, you were aware of it, and that you attempted to resolve that issue. Okay? And again, notice here, your same 3 EIV user types can access the multiple subsidy report, including your application processor, and then those traditional EIV system users for the voucher and the public housing program. And it's very easy to access this report. You just simply click on the multiple subsidy report link, double click on it. Again, search for all household members, click on search results. And then the system is going to display your results. Summary reports as well as the details, which we've seen before. And then also, one thing I've always advised you all, if you never ever run the multiple subsidy report, but you are pulling the EIV income report for every single household, the income report will have a warning indicator that will tell you that there is a possible occurrence of duplicate assistance. So if you'll notice a screenshot here on the screen, it tells you this member may be receiving multiple subsidies. See the multiple subsidy tenant report for details. So if you never run the multiple subsidy report, as long as you're pulling your EIV income reports and you're going through the income reports, and remember, these warnings are in red, bold font, so you cannot miss them. If you do miss them, let me know, and I'll make the font bigger or something, but anything in red is trying to get your attention to alert you to a potential problem. Okay, now you will have some false positives, okay? And common false positives deal with the scenario of the PHA or the owner management agent did not update the family composition on the form 5.8 or 5.9 to remove the family members who have moved out. That is a common issue that we see. So again, if you have a household member that's showing up in multiple households, and particularly what you'll see is either they're, member number 1 in the first household and member number 3 in another household, okay? And most common is where you have member number 3 who becomes the head of household of their very own unit, okay? And that's an easy fix. The second scenario is your family is using a housing choice voucher at an eligible project-based Section 8 program under the multifamily housing program. I'm going to show you what these false positives looks like in just a second. And you'll be able to spot these as false positives because the address listed on the 5.8 and the 5.9 are exact. It'll be 123 Main Street on the 5.8 and 123 Main Street on the 5.9. Also, it is not uncommon for false positives for former multifamily housing program participants, and this occurs because the HUD form 50059, the EOP transaction, is actually deleted out of the current tracks database. And so initially, it will not show up as a duplicate assistance, but the minute that EOP transaction is deleted, remember EIV is looking for the occurrence of a Social Security number across 5.8s and 5.9s, and so when they delete the EOP transaction in tracks, it's gone. So the system doesn't know that this person is receiving duplicate assistance. So the Office of Public and Indian Housing is working with the multifamily housing to ask them to maintain the EOP 5.9s in the current tracks database so that those do not show up as a false positive. And I know I've worked quite a bit with Lisa out in Michigan, and she has a lot of families that were participants in the multifamily housing program, and then they end participation and they come into the housing choice voucher program, in Detroit, and she has a lot of false positives. And so I have to tell Lisa, Lisa, you know these are false positives. Don't waste your time on those. And you'll see the names, and so you'll know that these are families who left. Once you've determined up front that they left the multifamily housing program, you don't have to keep doing that process over and over again. That's why I said it's important to maintain in the tenant file folder the results of the discrepancy resolution. So we're going to look at these couple screenshots, and then we're going to go to break. But notice here, this is your false positive for example number 1, where the member is the head of household of 1 unit and member number 1 of a 2nd unit. And notice the yellow highlights there. They're showing up in public housing, and then they're showing up in a tenant-based assistance, which is your housing choice voucher program. False positive number 2 is where you have Ms. Ball, who has a housing choice voucher that she's using in a project-based Section 8 under the multifamily housing program. Notice that it's the same address, so you know that there's no issue. She's using her housing choice voucher program at a project-based Section 8 that falls under the multifamily housing program. So what we're going to do is we're going to break. We're going to take a 15-minute break. For our live studio audience, out to the left, there will be 2 tables set up with light refreshments for you. And for our webcast audience, we will come back at 3.